Hey, Drawing and Painting 2. So I'm going to talk to you about approach number 2 and different things that you can do. And I'm going to do like a super simple 2-second still life, just because I want you to get an idea about like the media and how to use the different materials and tools that you could use. So one option is you're going to do a much more elaborate landscape than I'm drawing right now, but this is just a quick, this is kind of like my quick, I'm going to draw a landscape. I'm going to draw like a tree. Then I'm going to draw the horizon line coming out from underneath behind the tree. Then I'm going to add some swirly mountains. All right. Then I'm going to add, maybe I'll make that into some water. So I'll add the fact that that's that. And I've got some like ground right there. So one way that you could approach this is you could draw the whole outline of your big areas in marker, right, in Sharpie. And then what you could do if you wanted to is you could just take some watercolor, right? And you could add washes of color, right? And if you're adding watercolor, you want to make sure you're careful about the amount of water you use. The more water, it's starting to bleed a little bit. You have all those brushes in your bag, so choose wisely. Maybe on this side, I'm going to let it get lighter. I can also blot it with a paper towel. So, one option is I go with Sharpie. The beauty of the watercolor is that the Sharpie will not bleed. You can paint right over it. You can have a grand old time drawing in Sharpie and then going over it with watercolor. So that's one way. And then if you do the watercolor, you can mix on the page. You can do it whatever way that you want. You can also add some salt to it if you want to give it some interesting texture. So one option is draw it in Sharpie, then add color using watercolor. All right, so that's option 1. Option 2, right, is a lot of the materials I gave you are actually water-based, and you might not realize it. I don't have colored pencils exactly like the way that you do, but you can, the pencils you have, if you use the ones in the blue box, which are Royal something, they're watercolor pencils. So if you wanted to, like, you could start off with like a mountain range, maybe there's like another mountain behind it, then maybe in your foreground you have my tree, which hopefully I'll draw better this time, right? We're going to imagine that this was the full piece of paper, so I'm going to draw a big box around it. All right, then I'm going to have like my horizon line coming out from underneath my mountains. Maybe I've got like a river coming out from the background. I don't know, super simple. You're going to do something more interesting than that. And my mountains kind of look like pyramids. All right. So one thing is I could do is if I'm doing a mountain range like this, right, is that I can also just use my colored pencils. I can make more realistic colors. So one thing I can do with my watercolor pencils, and I can lightly start adding value, right? I can make it go darker. I can layer some purple in here if I want to, right? Laying your color is always nice. And if I want to do this whole thing in colored pencil, I could. One of the benefits, if you use the colored pencils that are the first set of colored pencils you got in the box, is that they are water soluble. So if you want to, you could draw, right? And then you could take your watercolor pencil and you could pull out some of the color. So if you wanted to, you could add areas where you have line and then areas where you have color. And then you can add the water. So see, I still keep that line because I want to really focus on line as texture. And then I can pull it over this way, right? I can also, while it's wet, add some more mark making if I want to do that, but give it like a soft look. All right. So one option is that. Okay. Another thing, and we're going to turn the page. And we're going to go like this. Hopefully that page won't fall over on us. Actually, no, we'll just go like this. Whoa, excuse me a second. Now, another option, and you can also combine these things too, right? You can do the Sharpie and the watercolor pencil. You can do the Sharpie and the pens that I'm about to do. So you can do any of the things I'm showing you. You can like mix it up, right? You don't have to just do one. So I'm just showing you right now. So I'm going to start off with a box. We're going to pretend this is your piece of paper. I'm going to add in my tree. Right? Once again, your landscapes are going to be more complicated. I'm just adding something super simple. Maybe I'm going to have my water again. I'm going to have my mountains. I'm going to have them out in the background. All right. So that I can, once again, right, is I can crosshatch. I can go in with my pens. I can layer up. I can add in some like green. Right? And one thing that's also special about these pens is that we've discovered, we did not know this when we bought them, that guess what? They're water soluble, which means they dissolve in water. So if I want that, I can take this on top and I can then hopefully get my pens to mix. You notice they don't mix nearly as well as the colored pencils, but they do some interesting things with water. So if you want to, you could do that, but I also could do that, and then I could take some watercolor pencil on top, and I could also go over the top of that like that. So you can also mix your media too, right? I can put this on top. Be careful if I'm using water on your paper in your sketchbook. It might rip easily, so I might want to let that dry. That's another thing, right? I can put the pen underneath, put some watercolor pencil and some water on top, and then go from there. So another way you can go, right, is we have these oil pastels, right? So another thing you can do with the oil pastels, which you might not know. So let's just pretend I have some mountains, right? We're going to pretend this is our landscape again. This time, I guess we're just going to do some mountains, do some water, and maybe some grass. So if I want, I can go in here, more colors, the better, right? So I'm creating line work and I'm creating texture. And one thing that's special about these oil pastels is, guess what? They are also water soluble. So if I want to, I then can take some water and blend them out. The problem with blending things out with water is that we want to make sure that we have line. So one thing that I can do is I can draw this, right? Wet it, let it all kind of blend together. And then hopefully when it's dry, which is better than now, you can go back in and you can add other details, right? And you can combine any of these things together. But when I was looking at, you could not see what I was doing. So I'm just going to do that real quick again. You can add in your grass, right? Think about what texture you want, add in your different colors. Sorry, I should have noticed that we weren't in that spot there. And then the magic of water. All right. So how you do this is up to you. If you're looking at kind of the approach number 2, is the idea is that you are using color, but more in terms of like washes or areas. You can also have color underneath and then go back in with your pen or your Sharpie and add texture there. So let's see if this is dry enough on my first page. Remember this? I can also then go back in with my Sharpie, right? And if I want to add some more water texture, I can add more texture. So if you go with one of these approaches, you can go back in and you can add color and then add texture on top. Totally up to you. So hopefully this was helpful and not confusing. And if it was, just ask me because I now have this document camera and I can show you different stuff in class. Thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, now